Okay, so yeah, my name is Edgar Fries. I'm working for Siemens AG in Germany. I'm a system architect and I am responsible for the manufacturing pilot in this i3 market project. And I will give you a quick impression on what the industrial pilot looks like, what we are using it for, and then Marcio will give a presentation or a small demo on the WebRI, so what the implementation actually looks like. So let me share my screen. And start the presentation. So the manufacturing pilot. So why do we develop it in the first place? So Siemens doesn't have a marketplace for data right now, at least not publicly accessible. We do have some Siemens internal ones. The i3 marketplace that we are developing is the first one that will be visible externally. So this is something new for Siemens to have data that we are sharing with the rest of the world, and it will give us some new business opportunities to make money out of our data. So that's why this would be a big step for Siemens if we achieve this, and we are looking forward to getting this thing to work and see what we can make out of it. So let me tell you a little bit about the architecture of this marketplace. So our marketplace is this yellow box on the top right. We call it a manufacturing pilot. We develop it in cooperation with Marcio from Unparallel, who is developing the WebRI. So the pilot is based on this WebRI, which is a component developed in i3 market, and then we will make some specific adaptations so that it becomes our Siemens manufacturing pilot. The manufacturing pilot will make the data of our data space available. Our data space is called MindSphere. It's an open IoT operating system, which is a product of Siemens, and it's available to external customers. So all the data that we are distributing and that we are receiving will be in the data space, MindSphere. And the manufacturing pilot will take care of the metadata management, of the contracts, of the payments, of the user management, and so on. So data space is pretty much only for the data. All the user interaction will happen in the pilot. So where does the data for this project come from? In Erlangen, Germany, we have a small demo manufacturing plant, which I will show you a little bit later. So this demo plant has industrial controllers attached to it. It produces data when it's running, and when it's not running, we can run it in a so-called playback mode. Then it will play historic data and transfer it as a data stream into our MindSphere. So every 1 minute, we will have a new data set available in the data space, and we will accumulate it in form of time series data. So that is the actual data that we are dealing with. On top of that, we will have more data offers in the future. So this the data offerings will grow over time. So this is our general architecture, which is based on the SDK reference implementation and eventually on the reference core. The other two pilots from IBM and Atos, they are using either the core directly or they are based on the SDK-RI. So Siemens is the only one, the Siemens pilot is the only one that uses the web reference implementation. So this is a proof of concept that also the WebRI will work. So I will give you a quick impression on where the data comes from. What does our manufacturing demo factory look like? So here we have a digital model. So we have a full digital twin of this production facility. It has some conveyor belts. It has a portal crane which transports the goods. It has 4 processing stations. It has a robot and a 5th processing station, which is outside of this normal conveyor belt run. So here is a side view where you can see the portal crane. We have 2 cranes on this portal. And here are the conveyor belts, the processing stations, view from the other side. This is what it looks like in real life. So it's made out of what we call Fischer Technic components. It has industrial controllers that you can see here on the right-hand side. So this is a Siemens automation controller, decentralized controller. Here is a view of the robot who does the handling of the goods to the 5th processing station. And here you can see our control equipment. So these are real S7 PLCs that handle the control of the entire plant. And this is on the right-hand side is decentralized inputs and outputs. So here arrives the data in the controller, some pre-processing of the data is done and the collection of the data. And eventually this controller will also send the data to MindSphere. So it also acts as an IoT device. After pre-processing the data, it will send it to MindSphere using MQTT protocol. So in MindSphere, we collect the data in form of time series data. So here is an example. We have data about energy management. So this is from our pressurized air equipment. And down here we have motor data. So this is power and voltage and currents from the motors. So this is the data we are actually trading. We have a metadata description for this data, but this is the real payload, I would call it, that we are offering on i3 Market. And yeah, this is our data offering, how it looks like in the data space. So this is the end of my presentation. Then I will give the floor to Marcio, who will give a short presentation on what the WebRI and eventually the pilot will look like.